We saw how we divided our component into two different subcomponents, and both the subcomponent were class components, and we can optimize your component, basically class component, by extending pure component, or you can implement should component update. And we also saw like we should use react.pure component very wisely. Now what are your alternatives when you start writing functional component instead? So let's say this is component 1 and component 2 were a functional component. So let's try to first, what we'll do is we'll change these two components into functional components. So for changing into functional component, this is still required and the class is not required. So export const table, and since this is a function component, we will have something like this, and it will take props as an argument. Render is not there in functional component, but functional component should have a return. This is not there for class, this is not there for functional component. So this way we converted the component 1 into a functional component. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the component 2 also into a functional component. So export const time equal to, so both the components, both the subcomponents are now functional component. Now if you go and see in the browser, you can see like both data and time are getting rendered every seconds. Now how can we optimize this data component from being re-rendered again and again? For that we have something called React.memo. So what React.memo does is it's similar to should component update. So it just compares whether or not all the props has changed for a particular functional component, and if it has not changed, it will not re-render the component. So what I will do is let's change it to something called table1, and we'll still export table. So export const table, and we'll use React.memo table1. So what we are doing basically is we have a table1 which is a functional component, and we are creating a new component called table, which is a memoized component of table1, and we are going to use this table component inside our parent component. So this is getting rendered from here, and our second component, we don't need React.memo for now, and what we'll do is we'll try to see what is the effect on the UI. So if you go and see here, we can see that only time is changing. So similar to pure component and should component update in the class level components, we have React.memo for functional component. Just for fun, let's try to change the time component also to a memoized component. So export const time equal to React.memo time1, and what we'll do is we are using this time from parent component. So as we saw in the previous case, when when we changed the time component to pure component, our time component was not updating because there is not a prop that is changing for the time component. So again, we should use React.memo very wisely, similar to React.pure component.